In a small village surrounded by rolling hills and vast fields, a carpenter named Peter lived with his wife, Miriam, and their 8-year-old son, Daniel. Peter was known for crafting the finest wooden furniture, and his hands had built many homes in the village. But now, his work had come to a halt. The scorching sun had hung in the sky for months without rest, burning the land beneath it. The rivers had shrunk into narrow streams, the trees stood brittle and lifeless, and the fields once rich with wheat were now barren. The people of the village, who relied on the earth for food and trade, watched in despair as their livelihoods withered away. Peter sat outside his small home, running his calloused fingers over a half-finished wooden chair. He hadn't been able to sell anything in weeks. Who would buy furniture when they barely had enough food? Miriam, his wife, came and placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "The village council has called for a gathering," she said softly. "They say we must do something before it's too late." Peter sighed but nodded. He knew there was no easy solution. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow over the village, the people gathered in the central square. The village elder, a man named Samuel, stood before them. His face, lined with years of wisdom, was heavy with concern. "The drought has stolen our crops, dried our wells, and tested our spirits," Samuel said. "But we must not lose hope. We will all pray tomorrow at sunset. Every home, every family. We will ask the heavens for rain." The crowd murmured. Some nodded in agreement, while others looked skeptical. Prayers had been said before, yet the skies had remained empty. But little Daniel, standing beside his parents, listened carefully. His small hands clenched into fists. He believed in prayer. He believed in miracles. And he knew, deep in his heart, that something would happen. The next evening, as the sky turned a deep shade of purple, every household in the village gathered in silent prayer. Candles flickered inside homes, their warm glow reflecting off tired faces. Peter knelt beside his wife and son. He closed his eyes, his lips moving in quiet desperation. "Lord, I have built many homes with my hands," he prayed. "But now, my family and my people have no strength left. Please, send the rain." Miriam wiped a tear from her cheek and whispered her own plea. Around them, the village was filled with voices, some loud, some quiet, all carrying the same wish into the sky. Daniel, sitting cross-legged on the floor, folded his hands tightly. "Dear God," he said softly, "I know you are listening. I know you can bring the rain. Please, help my father and our village." The prayer ended, and silence filled the home. Peter sighed, standing up. "I should check on the workshop," he said, his voice heavy. Daniel quickly stood up. "Wait. I want to come too." Before his father could respond, Daniel ran inside and came back holding something in his small hands, an old, faded raincoat. Peter frowned. "Why are you bringing that, son? The sky is clear." Daniel looked up at his father, eyes shining with certainty. "Because we just prayed for rain. If we don't bring a raincoat, we'll get wet when it comes." Peter froze. His heart, so weighed down by doubt, suddenly felt light. His son's faith was so pure, so unwavering. He had prayed with full belief, without a single doubt. For the first time in months, Peter smiled. He reached down, took the raincoat from his son's hands, and held it tightly. "All right," he said, his voice stronger. "Let's go." Father and son walked toward the workshop, the old raincoat folded over Peter's arm. The air was still, and the stars blinked in the sky. Not a single cloud was in sight. As they neared the shop, Peter glanced at Daniel. "Do you really believe the rain will come, son?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, Father. Don't you?" Peter opened his mouth to respond but stopped. Did he? He had prayed, but had he truly expected his request to be answered? Or had he, like so many others, only hoped without believing? The wind began to shift. A soft breeze brushed against their faces. Daniel looked up, a grin spreading across his face. "It's coming," he whispered. Peter turned his gaze to the sky. He still saw no clouds, yet something inside him stirred. A small voice whispered in his heart, "Faith isn't just about asking. It's about knowing." A single drop of water landed on Peter's hand. He gasped. Another followed, then another. Then, with a mighty roar, the heavens opened. The rain poured down like it had been waiting for this moment. It hit the rooftops, soaked the dry ground, and filled the empty wells. The villagers ran out of their homes, laughing and crying as the drought ended in an instant. Miriam rushed outside, holding her hands up to the sky in joy. Peter and Daniel stood in the rain, their faces lifted, their clothes drenched. Peter looked at his son in wonder. "You knew," he whispered. Daniel simply smiled. "I believed." The villagers danced in the streets, their prayers answered in the most beautiful way. And in the midst of it all, Peter held his son close, knowing that on that night, he had learned the greatest lesson of his life. Moral of the story. Faith is not just about asking, it's about believing so strongly that you prepare for the answer. Many of us hope for good things but doubt they will ever happen. Yet true belief leads us to act as if the miracle is already on its way. When we believe in ourselves, in our dreams, and in the power of hope, we create the conditions for success. Just like little Daniel, who carried a raincoat when others carried doubt, we too must walk forward with the certainty that what we seek will come to pass. So, the next time you pray for something, ask yourself, do you believe enough to bring the raincoat? If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Let's spread the power of belief together. See you in the next story.